Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina. And today we're talking about thrilling books that are set in winter because listen, in Chicago, I don't think it's been warmer than 20 degrees all week and I'm frankly sick of it. But what I do love to do when it's that cold outside, I love reading books that are set in winter. I'm actually reading one right now that is set in Florida in the summer and it's really boggling my mind because it's like not fitting my season. So obviously I am in the US in February in the Midwest, so it's very cold. But these books will hold up, I think, wherever you're located, whatever season it is by you. These are 11 books that I think are worth it. They are all snowy, wintry, very atmospheric. And then I'm also bringing two that are very popular, but I don't think are worth it. So let's begin. The first book that I'm bringing is Eight Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson, and I thought this was such a good time. This one is also for fans of books within a book or books that are set in bookstores because it is about a bookseller and mystery aficionado named Malcolm who created a list of fiction's most unsolvable murders, which he called Eight Perfect Murders. All of a sudden, one cold day in February, an FBI agent comes knocking at his door because she is looking for information because there's been a series of unsolved murders that look eerily similar to the list that Mal put together. So someone has basically found this guy's blog post about the most perfect murders in literature and is deciding to reenact them. This one is snowy and it's kind of a cat and mouse game because I think the killer knows at one point that he's been found out or, that they have suspicions. Mal decides to investigate. And I don't love an amateur detective novel, but I thought this one was really fun. I think if you're an Agatha Christie fan or a fan of those traditional mystery novels, you might like this one even better. I didn't get all the references, but there are a ton of books that are referenced in here, and what a fun ride this was. I don't think any winter list would be complete without No Exit by Taylor Adams, because when I tell you I read this one in just about one sitting, I know I've talked about it on my channel before, but I wanted to bring it again because it is so perfect for this video. It is about a young woman who is going home from college in a snowstorm. And I swear to you, I don't know why people do that. If there's a snowstorm coming, just stay put. But anyway, the main character decides to go home. I think something happened with her family, and so she has to travel at that very moment. She goes out into the storm and she sort of gets snowed in, so she pulls off to a road stop. She looks in the car next to her and there is a young girl that is trapped in a cage, and she sort of sees this young girl's hand on the window. And so she goes into the rest area knowing full well that someone has abducted a young girl and doesn't know what to do with this information. And what I thought was so good about this, I really liked Darby Thorne as a main character. She is somebody that is going to fight back. She's not somebody that's going to take it and just say, oh, well, I'm not going to, do anything with this information. She definitely fights back. This one gets very brutal at one point. I read this on an airplane and I swear it made the flight go by so fast. This is me taking crazy notes. Animal abuse, poorly written, question mark. Darby is kind of a dick. So it took me a minute, I think, to come around with her, but overall this one is so thrilling. This is the only Taylor Adams one that I have read that I've enjoyed. I really did not like his second novel that I'm blanking on, but I would give him another shot based on this one alone. Next up is Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. And if you know me, you know that I love this novel. It is gruesome. I mean, this one is definitely dipping its toes, I think, into the horror space because so many people get killed in this one. And it is about Krista. She joins this tour group that's touring the Rocky Mountains, and she has reasons for going on this trip. She is also there with her fiance. He wanders off the bus and disappears, and then they get trapped in a snowstorm. And so this group that don't really know each other, they're forced to take shelter to get together in this cabin. And then, despite the uncomfortably claustrophobic quarters and rapidly dropping temperature, Krista's like, oh, we'll be fine, we'll be safe, just wait it out. And of course, they are not fine. People start dying one by one, and one of them kills for sport. This one was such a wild ride. I mean, loved the atmosphere. You're definitely in the cold weather with this one. You're definitely in the snow. And I just think if you like very fast-paced, gruesome, whodunit, locked room mysteries, this is one of my favorites. Now for something that's a little bit lighter. I mean, when in God's Green Earth has post apocalyptic fiction become lighter, but here we are. This one is about a society that collapses. It takes place in an Anishinaabe community in Canada, and winter is looming. All of a sudden, one day, everything goes dark, and this community finds themselves cut off from civilization. And then unexpected visitors arrive and basically want them to house them. What is so brilliant about this is that it takes place in an indigenous community. This group of people has already had everything taken from them once. They have passed down their knowledge about the earth and about just sort of how to take care of community from generation to generation. And now it seems like those skills are going to be more important than ever. This one is quiet and it's a survival story. It's also a story that has a lot of unease. You're not sure who to trust throughout the story, but I think this one is fabulous. I also really liked the audio, so if you're an audiobook person, maybe give that a shot. There is a sequel, Moon of the Turning Leaves, that just came out last year that I read and enjoyed it very much as well, but I highly recommend you give this one a shot. If you want something that's a lot more atmospheric, that's very wintry, that's just very unsettling and about community. Next up is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer, and this book came out in the summer of last year in 2024, but I maintain that this is a perfect winter book. It is about two homeowners that get their hands on this perfect house. It's in an old, picturesque neighborhood. They got a good deal on it, and they sort of can't believe their luck. Eve and Charlie are house flippers, and so they have decided to renovate this particular house to be theirs. And then Eve is a little bit of a pushover. She is somebody that is not as she doesn't stand up for herself as she should. And one day, this family comes to their home and it's basically like, hey, the man's like, hey, I used to live here. This is my family home. Would you mind if my family came in and took a look around? And again, as I mentioned, Eve is a pushover. And so she decides to go ahead and let these individuals do that. And chaos ensues. This is one that is best read if you don't know a lot going in. It is very spooky. It's very spooky. I was creeped out when I was reading this, and I would say just let the novel unfold as it will and be okay with the unexpected, because it sounds like a straightforward story, but it's not. And there's a whole entire Reddit subthread. If you end up loving this novel and want to investigate more, definitely check out that subthread. I loved this book. It was on my favorite books of 2024 list, and I rated it 5 stars. The reason it's being included in my winter thrilling novels book is because there is a snowstorm that comes into play in this one, and that's all I'll say. These Silent Woods by Kimi Cunningham Grant. Will I ever find a novel that I enjoyed more than this one? I'm not sure. I absolutely loved this book. It is about Cooper and his young daughter Finch. They live off the grid. They live somewhere in the mountains, and this is by design. The only people that know that they live there is this other guy who's living remotely, who is a hermit, and then Cooper's old friend Jake, who visits them each winter to bring supplies. But this year, Jake does not show up, and this sets off a chain of events that changes their lives forever. When I tell you I cried, when I tell you this author managed to make a trip to the local Walmart make me sweat. I was physically sweating reading that scene in Walmart, and I think it's brilliant. Definitely, if you've not read this one yet, you've got to. Those are all the physical copies that I have in front of me, but I am going to bring a couple more recommendations for ones that I don't have in print. And one of them, oh my gosh, is The Drift by CJ Tudor. This one is gross. This one is very, very smart, though. It's one of those novels that has multiple points of view, and you're sort of like, how on earth are these ever going to converge? Trust me, they do. It's about 3 ordinary people who risk everything for a chance at redemption. And this one starts off with a bang. You sort of open the book being awoken in a bus that has crashed. And it was, again, a snowstorm was the reason for this bus crash, and the people on it are trying to figure out how are they going to get off. I also think one of the people on this bus is pregnant, and so that adds another layer. Then another person wakes up on a cable car that is stranded in the snowy mountains with 5 other strangers, and she has no idea how she got there and why they're all there together. And again, they have to decide like, hey, how the hell are we going to get out of here? And then finally, you've got Carter, who is in a ski chalet, and he and his companions, they call that home. And you know that they're there for reasons. You don't know exactly what they're doing, if they're good, if they're bad, but then their generator goes out in the storm and something that's hiding in the chalet is threatening to escape. Trust me when I say all of these points of view come together. I was hooked from start to finish. Now, this one again is brutal. It's not an easy read, but I do think this one is very much a fast-paced thriller, and it's smart. It's one that you do have to pay attention to if you want to really catch all the subtleties of this, but I really enjoyed it, and I could not for the life of me guess where it was going. If there is one thing that I love, it is a book that features a home. People are trying to buy a house. It's a haunted house, whatever. When the house is a character, I love that. And this one is Never Lie by Freida McFadden. Don't leave. I know it's Freida, but this one I think is excellent and very much worth it, especially if you like a winter thriller. This one is about two newlyweds, Trisha and Ethan, who are searching for the house of their dreams. Then they visit this home that used to belong to Dr. Adrian Hell, a renowned psychiatrist who vanished without a trace 4 years earlier. And then a violent winter storm traps them in the estate, and there's no chance of them getting out, so they decide to hang out there. These fools, I swear. Now, these are not smart characters, but they sort of get bored and start poking around the house and figure things out. You also start to get the point of view from Dr. Hale as you're reading along. This is my favorite Freida McFadden. The two main characters, man, I just remember they were like sleeping in these people's beds. They're like making bologna sandwiches, and their real estate agent that was supposed to show them the home never shows up, and they didn't question it. They're just like, man, that's crazy. All right, well, I guess we're stuck here. So fun, such a funny ride. And I thought this one actually was really smart. I didn't guess the ending, and I enjoyed it very much. Now, this next one might be better suited if you want to read it around Christmas time. That is what I did, and it is called 25 Days by Per Jacobson. This book is very clever because what it is, it's 25 chapters, 25 days. It's a thriller advent calendar. And so what you're supposed to do as the reader is read one chapter a day leading up until Christmas. And I did. That's what I did this last year. I thought this one was so suspenseful. It's about a man who arranges a family trip for I think it's 2 months or something in a snowy mountain. But it becomes very clear that the people in this area are not really interested in outsiders, but they finally get to their destination. They're in this snowy cabin. The girls are kind of enjoying it because there's a farm. Everything is going great until they wake up the next day and there is a stocking hung outside. Doesn't sound super ominous, right? Until you realize that somebody is playing a very, very twisted game of Secret Santa with them. Me personally, I like the first half of the novel better than the second half, but it is very suspenseful. I couldn't wait to get to the next day to figure out what was going to happen to these people. There's 4 people in the family. Each of them gets a point of view. This one's brutal. So very graphic, very gory, not cozy in whatsoever, but it's a tale of survival. If you like survival stories, I think this one's worth it. And it's loosely tied to Christmas. I don't think you need to read it around Christmas time, but it was a fun reading experience to read it leading up to Christmas. The last book that I'm bringing that I recommend is called The Dark by Emma Haughton. A doctor gets the opportunity to become the emergency replacement for a doctor at a UN research station in Antarctica. So she jumps at the chance. She's like, yes, she's having sort of personal struggles at home and thinks this is a great opportunity for her. And their previous doctor died in a tragic accident while out on the ice. And these people are desperate. They need somebody. And so she decides to go. And it's great for her because no one knows really who she is. No one's going to check up on her. And then darkness descends and people start going a little bit crazy. And she begins to suspect that the previous doctor's death might not have been an accident after all. And that's basically where it goes. There's questions, there's twists and turns. It's a little quieter. It's not a total in-your-face psychological thriller, but I'm fine with that. It is claustrophobic. It's also a locked room mystery, and I thought this one was really good. There's 24 hours a day darkness, and that really added to the creepy atmosphere, and I think this one is perfect for winter. Now, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit of shit because there are 2 books that are very popular and have great covers for winter that I just did not think were worth it. That is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley and Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Rock, Paper, Scissors, it should have worked for me. And it's about this couple that, again, goes on a retreat to try and repair their relationship. And this man has an interesting condition. He has face blindness, and that's a real thing. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Let's see how she's going to incorporate that. My problem with this is there is an simile or a metaphor literally on every page. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is going on with the writing here? It was so distracting. I guess I just didn't like the writing with this one. I wish I could find an example. I just remember not enjoying it. And I guess overall, it's forgettable if I'm having this much trouble remembering exactly what it is, why I didn't like it. Now, this one, I remember exactly why I didn't like it because I didn't like the people in it. It is set in during Christmas break, welcoming in the new year with a group of friends, and they're in the Scottish Highlands. This totally should work for me. I love books set in that setting. They arrive on December 30th. I love a college group of friends with secrets, but I just thought, gosh, these people are dumb. And I hate to say it, I just did not think the mystery was all that good. I remember there were a lot of twisting points of view. Overall, I think these two are skippable, but the others that I recommended in this are worth your while. That's it for me today. If you have any other recommendations for winter thrillers, books set in the snow, books where weather or snow play a big role, I would love to hear your recommendations. Please leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!